All right, CMA Nation. We just finished the best 3 weeks of the sports calendar with March Madness coming to an end. Congratulations to the Florida Gators who become this year's champions. While it stinks that March Madness is over, it's not all sad though, and that is because now it is time, boys, for another of the greatest sporting events of the year. Yes, that's right. Bring on the azaleas and amen corner because it is Masters Week. I am so excited. So let's not wait. It is time to enter Sandman Sports. As always, I'm here with my two awesome co-hosts, Mr. Pat Klett and the Sandman himself, Bill Sanders. And guys, no jokes or poking fun today. Today is about respect and gratitude because you guys are true champs in my book. And I am grateful to get to work with you two every week on this podcast. Thank you both for bringing it every week, gentlemen. I love doing this with you guys, seriously. And can't wait to get into this week's show. And don't worry, Pat, the digs will come back next week. Before we get into it, let's tell CMN listeners where they can find us. The good news is they can find us everywhere, just like red lines on my most recent financial statement. Holy crap, stock market, please, can we go up again one of these days? Oh my goodness. One thing that continues to go up is our awesome website at entercmansports.com. So be sure to check us out daily. We drop new content every single day, articles, videos, much, much more. This past week, we posted content on the Masters, the NBA, the NFL draft, Beerman's six packs. Our St. Louis Syndicate drops several videos weekly. And of course, Major League Baseball, where one of our writers, CM Cox, has started a cool series where he ranks the 10 best at each position for the 2025 season. He already dropped starting pitchers, and that series will continue this week. So be sure to check that out. Other places to follow us as well. Of course, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all at Enter Sandman Sports. All right, guys, let's get into today's opening. As we talked, last week, this Final Four was the first one since 2008 and only the second one ever with all number one seeds. Even though Duke lost and many had them at the top of their brackets, Florida was also a big favorite and certainly a worthy champion. But it got me thinking about who is the best team to cut down the nets, at least in the modern era, or since the three of us, have been fans of the game. So we're going to take this back about 40 years. Because a few weeks ago, I read an article on The Athletic that basically ranked the 40 most recent national champions. So going from last year's UConn team all the way back to 1985. And the reason that year was picked was that was when the bracket expanded to 64 teams. And if you'll remember, that was the year the number 8 seed Villanova shocked the world by beating Georgetown in the title game. So what I want to talk about in today's opening is this. If you had to pick the greatest team in the past 40 years, who would you pick? You don't need to use the same criteria that article did. You can use whatever you want. Maybe it's they had the most players go to the NBA. They only lost once or twice. They played in the toughest conference. They simply just passed the eyeball test for you. However you want to do it, but each of us are going to share at least one just unequivocal, this is the best champ in the past 40 years. And why? And then I would love to talk briefly about who do you think might be the worst team that has won one, or at least the most fluky champion in the past 40 years. So, all right, let's start with Pat. What do you got here, my friend? Who's the best champion in the last 40 years?
So of all the sports we watch where you can barely remember who won the year before, this one always disappears into the ether within a week. My brain is not a steel trap. I get too sidetracked. So for me, you got to go with the back-to-back champs because they are nice enough to remind you that, oh yeah, we won last year too. So for me, give me Duke 91-92 or Florida 06-07. And I kind of lean Florida 06-07. Joakim Noah, that year, that was a good team. So yeah. Give me
that was teams. A good team. So just for this article, you said the Florida, so that 08 or that 07 Florida team, they had ranked 7th overall. And again, they used all kinds of different criteria that we won't necessarily need to get into here. But, and then what was the other team you said? The 91-92
uniforms. Yeah, 91-92 Duke. Yeah, best helmets.
Yeah, so they had that criteria. Team. They had that team number 2. So,
Oh wow, good picks,
yeah,
Pat.
yeah. So I think those are worthy picks. One of those 2 teams I'll talk a little bit about when I get to as well. But I mean, both of the, obviously they're top 7, both of those, according to this article. So,
and the Duke team for me, I was playing basketball at the time. That was my basketball years, and I was a point guard, so I really liked the Bobby Hurley.
it was a stacked lineup. That was a stacked lineup for sure.
That was the Hurley, Leitner, Grant Hill.
Hill.
Hurley, Leitner, Grant Hill. They had Thomas Hill. They had Antonio Lang. They had Cherokee Parks on that. Another big guy.
Cherokee Parks, yes.
Yeah, that was a really good team with a lot of. I mean, well, Grant Hill was an incredible NBA player. You know, Leitner had his ups and downs, but I mean, many of those guys went to the NBA and made their mark in some way. So, sure. Big team.
Wasn't Cherokee Parks the first one that was all tatted up? Wasn't like if you
I
think
don't
back,
think he was tatted up. Was he? So. I don't remember Cherokee being tatted up.
Super tatted up, I think.
In college or in the pros?
I think it was kind of college into pros. I seem to remember he played for the Clippers, maybe, or something.
Are you thinking of?
I'd have to go look.
Birdman Anderson?
No, Birdman was definitely
He's going full sleeve.
I mean, I think of Cherokee Parks as just this dorky, super tall guy with like floppy hair. Like I do not remember him having tattoos.
I'm gonna look it up. I seem to remember him being a little like, because think back to 91, 92. Nobody had tattoos. Now look at every single player.
Yeah, I know. That's why I do. That's why I feel like I think I would have remembered that. That is not striking a bell with me. Yeah. Pat, what about any? What do you think are some of the bad teams that have
fluky teams? I wouldn't say a bad team because they were a good team and they were fun to watch, but a little fluky champions. The 2011 UConn came out of nowhere. Kemba Walker. I've mentioned this before. Kemba Walker caught fire. I thought he was amazing that year, right out of the Big East tournament. But they were ranked outside the top 20 before the Big East tournament. They kind of came out of nowhere. They also beat Butler in a bad shooting game for both teams in the final. It was a very uneventful, low-scoring final. But their run there was quite a ride, but the final was boring.
Yeah.
So,
spoiler alert, you and I agree on this, Pat. Wow.
Spoiler.
Great minds think alike.
I've got a different one for that one, so you guys.
Okay. All right.
You guys can
lay it on us, Bill.
Awesome. Yeah, Pat or Bill. Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
All right. Can you guys? All right. I'll bring it up later, but I was right on Cherokee Parks.
You were.
He is totally tatted when he got to the Clippers, and there's this great picture of him, and he's holding his knuckles up like this, and they're tatted all up with true grit on his knuckles of his hand.
Okay. All right.
He's got spiky hair, wearing the headband. He's like the pre-Birdman.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's probably
look at you. Funny. Look at you go.
For the Clippers too. I can't believe that. It's weirdest things we remember.
I mean, this might be the most that anybody's talked about Cherokee Parks in the last 35 years.
We got to have him on.
I was going to say, probably get him on. He'd be like, yeah, I'll do it. You got shit else going on.
What's your guys' pod? I'm in.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna. We might have our CRO effort that, see if she can get.
There we go, Max. Let's go. Let's get Cherokee Parks. Anyway, yeah, great call out there on Cherokee. Hadn't thought of him in probably 40 years or whatever, 30 years. So my team, and I don't think this is recency bias with mine, but I'm going with the UConn Huskies from 2024. So
that was their number one. That article ranked them number one, and it said, "Hey, we're truly trying not to do recency bias," but again, they had all kinds of criteria. But
oh gosh, okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I didn't even click on. I didn't read the Athletic article. But we're on the same page apparently. Here's the thing for me, guys, and Pat nailed it for me. I don't know why I remember Cherokee Parks had tattoos for the Clippers, but I cannot tell you who won the March Madness before the UConn Huskies the last 2 years. I am so bad when it comes to naming off champs in any sport, unless it's like the Seahawks or the Sonics, which are the only two that have championships, and the Sounders, which I know you guys love soccer. But so, I mean, the way that I remember this is that we have a cool pool that we do called Spread Man Walking, where one of the greatest titles I've come up with through the years too. Pat myself on the back. But basically what you do is you assign these teams and you get the spreads. And if your team covers the spread, you advance. So it's total luck. But last year, Kerry Stroop had the Yukon Huskies, and they just crushed everyone in every round and just went straight on through to the final, and he won the whole thing. And that was the first time I ever remember in running this pool that happened. And I looked it up, and they had a victory margin of 140 total points in 6 rounds. They had an average margin of 23.3 points per game. I mean, they just destroyed everybody. So, and what was great is it was back to back too. So you got to, for me, just give them all the props, all the flowers. For me, the worst team, and again, you guys know me well enough now by episode 34. This is not in the last 40 years, but I had to put the 1939 Oregon Ducks. The 1939 Oregon Ducks, nobody played in the tourney. There were 8 teams. There were 8 teams in the tournament. So don't tell me that they're national champs. National champs of what? They're not national champs. 8 teams. They suck. Who was their leading scorer?
You are gonna love. You're gonna love one of my hot takes, then, man. When we get to hot takes, I'm very curious about.
Were all the boys off to war? Is that why they couldn't field enough teams? What year was this?
I mean, Pearl Harbor hadn't happened. No, 39, right? I mean, we're watching from afar at that point. But what was amazing to me in just doing a little bit of research on this, I didn't realize this, but the NIT was actually the big tournament back then. So the NIT was like the prestige. That was the one where all the best teams in the country went. So no, Oregon Ducks, sorry, you're not. But I am going to go with in the last 40 years to answer Eric's question. 2014 Yukon. So I picked Yukon as my best. 2014 Yukon as not the worst. They did win, but Shabazz Napier was their best player. And it was just like they beat nobody. They beat Kentucky in the final. They were, I think, still maybe the only 7 seed to ever win. So, and Kentucky was an 8 seed. So, they really had an easy path. They had a bunch of upsets. I got to throw them in there as my worst.
So this article had that UConn team ranked 2nd worst. So, dude, you are dead on.
I'm on fire.
You are dead on, dude. Yeah, I don't.
Masters League.
I do disagree a little bit with that one, and I'll explain why in just a moment. But I mean, yes, that was not a good team. That definitely not a good team either. So, all right. So
what's your
So the article, as I mentioned, did choose the UConn last year's UConn Huskies as the best, and they were good, Bill. Like they, just to echo some of what you said, they went 37-3. They crushed everyone in the tournament, including number 1 seed Purdue. In the finals, that was their closest game, and they won that game by 15 points. So, great team. However, the one just thing that I didn't like when I was researching this is they also lost 2 of their 3 games during the regular season in blowouts. They lost by 15 against Seton Hall, and they lost by 19 against Creighton. So I didn't love that. And then just nobody in their lineup just shouts super stud to me.
That's
and
what
that,
I thought.
Kind of something that I looked at a little bit here, but they are certainly a worthy team in the discussion. No doubt. The other one I considered was the 91-92 Duke Blue Devils, which this article had the Blue Blue Devils. Exactly.
Yeah.
As we said, they had Leitner, Hurley, Hill, Lang. I mean, just a stacked in Cherokee Park's the tatted stud there. This team. Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Yeah,
it's
nice
hairy, but
it's hilarious.
He got his hair done.
He actually
too.
looks better in that picture than I remember him looking on the court.
He was a decent player, though.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah,
he was good.
Yeah.
He was good.
All
right. That team, 91-92 Duke, only lost 2 games all year, and it was by a total of 6 points, and it was against North Carolina and Wake Forest, so 2 conference games. But they also needed that Leitner miracle. So kind of ding them a little bit for that. Then I also looked at the 07-08 Kansas Jayhawks, who we talked about last week, because they beat Memphis with Chalmers making that great shot to take it to OT. The article had them ranked all the way down number 8 in the past 40 years. But this was a great team too, guys. They went 37-3. They won the Big 12 tournament. And of their 28 regular season wins, only 5 were within single digits. This team decimated their opponents. And their 3 losses were all on the road, and all of them were in single digits, and 2 of those 3 were within 1 score. And in the Final Four, this was the only other Final Four that had all number 1 seeds. So they had to beat 2 number 1 seeds, North Carolina and Memphis. So, this was also a really good team. The only thing that gave me pause for this one was their roster, just didn't make me say, wow. Yeah, they had Chalmers, other good players like Sharon Collins, Brandon Rush, Russell Robinson, but like just nobody that just was like, oh my gosh, they were incredible. So after careful consideration, I have to say, I believe the best team to win it all in the past 40 years, drumroll please, was the 2011-2012 Kentucky Wildcats. This article had that team ranked 5th. They lost 2 games all year by 1 point to Indiana, who they later beat in the tournament by 12 in the rematch, and by 7 against Vanderbilt in the SEC championship game. And that was it. Listen to this lineup. They had 4 first-round picks, including the number 1 and number 2 overall picks in the NBA draft. Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, they went 1 and 2. They also had Terrence Jones, Marcus Teague, Deron Lamb, and Darius Miller. They were 16-0 in the SEC regular season. Their closest margin of victory in the tournament was 8 points. And I remember thinking at the beginning of this tournament, this team was so dominant, there is no way that this team's going to lose. I did 12 brackets that year. I entered Kentucky as the champ in all 12 of them.
Wow.
And I think it's the only time I felt that confident about one team winning. So, yeah, I think you could make the argument for a handful of teams, but I'm going to go with the 11-12 Kentucky Wildcats and John Calipari squad there. As far as fluky or overrated, the article said number 1, the worst, was the 84-85 Villanova Wildcats. And they did lose 10 games that year. Nobody on the roster is a household name. And they had lost to Georgetown twice earlier that season, and everyone always points to that. But they lost by 2 points and by 7 points. So it's not like this was the biggest fluke ever when they beat them. Now, I will say their wins in the tournament, guys, were not impressive at all. They won by 2 points, 4 points, 3 points. They did get a double-digit win by 12 points. And then in the Final Four, they won by 7 points and by 2 points. So, they only had 1 win in the double digits. They had to shoot like an crazy, like 70-some%, I think, to beat Georgetown in that final game. But they did beat 2 number 2 seeds and 2 number 1 seeds in their journey there. So I'm going to say they're 1B on the worst team of all to win it all. My 1A is going to be what Pat said, the 2010-11 UConn team, which, by the way, had both. That team had Kemba Walker and Shabazz Napier on it, although Napier was a freshman, didn't play much. But, Kemba went crazy that year. But they finished 9th in the Big East with a 9-9 record. They got blown out several times during the regular season. They won 5 games in 5 days to win the Big East tourney. They would have made the tournament anyways, but that definitely helped their seeding. They went in as a number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. In the Elite 8, they beat number 5 seed Arizona by 2 points. They didn't have to play any number 1 seeds all tourney long. The highest seed they had to play was number 2 seed San Diego State. Then in the Final Four, they played number 4 seed Kentucky. They beat them by 1 point. And then, as Pat said, in the finals, they had to play big, bad, scary number 8 seed Butler, and they did beat them by 12. This team, they had Kemba, they had Jeremy Lamb, but this team did not scare me at all, and I think they're the worst ever. And to the 2013-14 UConn team you mentioned, Bill, they weren't good either. And as I said, the article ranked them 2nd worst ever. But they did finish 4th in the Big East, and only 2 of their 3 losses were by more, or 2 of their losses, they had more than 3 losses. 2 of their losses were by more than 10 points. So they were fairly competitive. Last question, guys. Where would you put this year's Florida team on that list? Would you put them top 10, bottom 10, middle of the pack? This was a good squad.
It's a good team. I mean, we kind of saw it coming in. We liked them. We all liked Florida. So I wouldn't say they were fluky. I would say they would be closer to the greats team than the fluky. Yeah. Yeah,
me too. What was their winning margin? They won every game by
a lot
close.
of games they came back from behind on a number of games. So
I think that's what might dang up. Yeah. Yeah, that might ding him a little bit.
The other thing too is Todd Golden might be the least intimidating head coach of all time. You just look at that team and you're like,
going into this tournament, I didn't even know who he was. I'm like, I literally was thinking, why do they keep showing the assistant so much? Why, like, what are they doing?
So
and I was
young
like, God,
someone get that kid a juice box. Get him a
Capri Sun. Get him a juice box. Yeah, get him a Capri Sun.
And maybe some Pirates booty. Get that kid to sit down.
Tell the coach's kid to
throw an iPad in front of his face.
Get off the
sideline. Oh my gosh!
I tell you, Walter Clayton Jr. though, you guys.
Oh, he was good. Yeah,
man.
No,
not in the final. Not in the final. He had a terrible first half.
He did not have a good game.
He had a terrible game, but good tournament.
All right,
really good tournament.
Well, that was fun, and there have definitely been some great teams in the last 40 years to cut down the nets. And kudos again to the Florida Gators. All right, let's get into the show now. We'll start with headlines for the past weekend, our hot takes and reflections. We'll get into our Stone Cold Locks, which this week is all about the Masters. Then we'll get into this week's top 5, which, guess what, is also all about the Masters. And, of course, we'll have plenty of fun and shenanigans along the way. And Pat will tell us once and for all, did the chicken or the egg come first? Spoiler, it was the frying pan. All right, we talked briefly about the NCAA basketball tournament, and congrats again to Florida. Let's start with a semifinal game worth note, and I have a feeling we'll hear more about this in hot takes, but the Duke Blue Devils, they lose in epic fashion to Houston in the Final Four after being up by 9 with 2 minutes left and by 6 with 35 seconds left. They screwed me too, Bill. We'll talk about that. I know they screwed you more, but they cost me a pretty penny as well. Now, I will say there was a bogus foul called on Cooper Flag that did not help things, but still, it was an epic collapse by the Blue Devils. Listen to this, guys. Bill, you might want to close your ears on this one, but Duke led Houston in these 5 statistics: field goal percentage, free throw attempts, assists, steals, and they had fewer turnovers. In NCAA tournament history, teams that won all 5 of those statistical categories were 335-0. Now 335-1. Wow. Just a bad loss. Yeah, man, that was bad. But Houston paid back the favor on Monday as they also let a big lead slip through their fingers as Florida comes back from a 12-point second half deficit to claim this year's crown and their 3rd basketball title. Overall, they won 65-63 when Houston could not get a shot off as time winded down. Their 2-point margin of victory matched their largest lead of the night in a game where they scored their 2nd lowest point total of the season. The comeback tied for the 3rd largest in men's championship game history. With the win, Gators head coach Todd Golden, age 39, became the youngest to win a national title since... Any guesses here? Any guesses?
Billy Donovan.
That was a really good guess. I would not have guessed this guy because I always I just think this guy was older when he was running around crazy. But Jim Valvano was 37 years old back in 1983 when his Wolfpack won it. So Florida's win gives the SEC its first national title since 2012 and puts icing on the cake for this conference's incredible season where 14 of their 16 teams made the tournament. Congrats again to the Gators and all of their fans. Let's now turn to the ladies' game, where we got to give massive props to the UConn Lady Huskies, Coach Gino Auriemma, and star player Paige Beckers, who absolutely crush number 1 seed South Carolina 82-59 to win their 12th title. And this surprised me, their first championship since 2016. I couldn't believe it went back that far, but kudos to the team. Very dominant performance all tournament long. To finish off college basketball for the season, Cooper Flag wins the Naismith Player of the Year, and Rick Pitino wins Naismith Coach of the Year. So congrats to those two. In record-breaking news, massive shout-out to Alex Ovechkin, who broke what many thought was an unbreakable record. Ovechkin scored his 895th goal, fittingly via the power play, since he also has the most power play goals in NHL history. This happened on Sunday in a 4-1 loss to the New York Islanders. I think it's interesting, too, that Ovechkin broke the record in the exact same number of games Gretzky played to reach it, 1,487. Ovechkin is truly an all-time great. As earlier this year, he joined Gordie Howe as the only two NHL players in history to rack up 20 goals in 20 straight seasons. While Gretzky will always be the greatest player in hockey history, Ovechkin now has a very strong case for number 2. So congratulations, sir. Just an incredible feat. And in the lead up to the Masters, with many of the big names sitting out, Brian Harman won the Valero Texas Open. But this week is all about the Masters, which promises to be a great one. And we'll get much, much more into that later in the show. Baseball continues into its second week. The NBA and NHL wind down as the playoffs will be starting soon. But that's enough for headlines this week, guys. Let's get into our hot takes. Yes, that's right. It's time for CNB and Sports Hot Takes, brought to you by Mike's Hot Honey. The honey's so hot, Rory is considering asking it to caddy for him this weekend. It is an incredible honey, guys, so be sure to check it out. Go to mikeshothoney.com and order some, or go to the honey aisle at your local grocery store. All right, Pat, start us off with your hot take, sir.
Well, hot takes this week seems to be all about the dire wolf coming back, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this where they recreated an animal from 10,000
I don't know much
years
about
ago
it, but
been
I did
extinct.
read it,
I mean, I feel like we have bigger problems to fix, and can't we just take all
I didn't hear
Julia
about
Robert,
this. What is this?
dire wolf? Some scientists like took DNA from a 10,000-year-old dire wolf that's been extinct and created another
living,
breathing dire wolf.
Wow.
Yeah. End
That's
of
incredible.
days. Yeah.
Bringing back extinct animals?
Right. Like, why don't we just take Julia Roberts or Pam Anderson's DNA and just recreate that whole time period? You know, why are we doing
Are we
this?
saying Jurassic Park could actually happen now then? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah,
here?
they're thinking about doing the woolly mammoth next.
Oh,
wow.
Yes.
Bring back the saber-toothed tiger. Or
anyway, cool, it was all over every feed yesterday. I couldn't get away from the dire wolf talk. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, but the Natty game headline should be not the sharpest knife in the drawer. That Sharp kid, oh my God. That kid makes 2 terrible plays. You just feel terrible for him. Like, come on. The first one, he almost like dribbles off his knee, and then he gets another chance. And I mean, I haven't seen that since I played 8th grade basketball, where someone jumps in the air and forgets to shoot. But so much pressure. I mean, you feel bad for Calvin Sampson. I was kind of, I mean, I got 3rd in my pool of 98 people. So I cashed.
Nice.
Which is good.
Good job.
But I really was kind of hoping Calvin Sampson took it home. So anyway.
Is it just me, or I feel like every time there's a blunder that occurs? So back in like the early 80s, remember with Georgetown, the guy was a Sleepy Floyd or somebody who, like Fred Brown maybe, threw, it was against North Carolina, and he threw the pass, and Aaron pass. It was the year that North Carolina won it when Jordan hit his shot. Weber with his timeout. This, yep. I'm sure they all seem to happen going that way, going the left when you're looking at your TV screen. Like,
interesting.
I literally can't think of any massive like screw ups at the end of a game going on the right. I can think of a lot of great shots. Keith Smart shot, Michael Jordan shot. Like, I'm telling you, man, that's weird.
Super interesting, Beerman.
That's a great take. I don't even know how to follow that up.
I need somebody. I need to know that there was a mess up going the other way, man.
Yeah.
I mean, Chalmers' massive shot was on the other side too.
You might be right.
Wasn't what you're talking about, the Jordan shot in college, but also the Elo shot that was on the right.
Left to right on your TV.
Yep.
Eric, I think you're onto something.
Yeah.
I think you're onto something.
The Craig Elo. Oh, like just such, man, those are seared into your brain, right? Wow, that's really interesting. That's fascinating. Yeah.
I think the Bryce Drew one was going to the left.
The Bryce Drew was going to the left. The Bryce Drew was going. I'm sure there were many great shots.
Leitner was the
other way. Leitner was the other way.
Right. Leitner was to the right.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's really
Interesting.
cool. Yeah.
Eric,
Dire wolves
only
and angle
only
or
you,
direction of
only
play
you would come up with this take.
and
I think you
Cherokee
should write
Parks.
a. I
I
think you
mean,
should write
Yeah.
a whole book on it.
I mean,
Yeah,
this is the most random episode already. We're
I
what, I
love
don't
it.
know,
yeah,
20
I
minutes in.
absolutely
We've
love it.
already talked about Cherokee Parks, dire wolves,
and dire
and
wolves.
directional basketball advantages.
Fantastic.
Anyway, so I spent a week on the beach and stuffed my face, so I didn't really think about sports, as was evident by my weak efforts in last week's pod. So I want to apologize to my fan. But I did. I read
Mackenzie, he's sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I read Stephen King's Salem Lot as is featured in my book of the month.
Yeah.
Okay,
How
Yeah.
was
So
it? Was it good?
buddy,
I've never read it.
I'm gonna get after a few more of his. He's an incredible writer. It's a slow drip, and it just builds and builds and intense. It's great. And great prose. Like he's actually a really good writer. I did golf the Hard Rock golf course across from our resort, and vacation golf with rental clubs isn't bad, but because you're golfing. But we had 11 golf balls to start, and my son sprays the driver all over, and the course was tight, and I didn't want to go. I had no idea what was crawling in the jungle. So I felt a ton of pressure on the tee box, and we had to borrow 2 golf balls from the beer cart dude on hole 6 because we weren't gonna be able to finish 9 holes with enough golf
With
balls.
11 balls. That's
the
awesome.
pressure was incredible. But yeah, anyway, I'm ready to turn the page on basketball, get into some playoff hockey and baseball once the Masters is over. And congrats to Ovi for sure, breaking that record. That was huge. What about you, Billy?
Yeah, I had Ovi as my number one as well. You guys both mentioned. The thing that I thought was cool when I heard this story was in the previous game. So before the Islanders game, I don't even remember who they were playing, but I think Ovi scored twice to tie Gretzky. The coach tried to put him in at the end of the game in an empty net situation, and Ovechkin said, "No, I want to break the record against a goalie, not with an
Yeah.
empty net." And I was like, that seemed cool to me. I mean, and then what a snipe. He just absolutely
That's really
smoked.
cool.
Yeah, he smoked that shot on the power play. But anyway, I mean, what an incredible record. Think about how many goals that is. I mean, that is nuts. That is absolutely nuts. So that was pretty cool. I sent this to you guys over the weekend. I thought just a shout out to Ryan Day. I know Bierman's not a Buckeyes guy, but that seemed like a pretty cool deal. He donated an entire $1.5 million, I think it was, bonus check to help people in need. I was like, that's pretty cool. So you got to give a shout out. And I could go on for days, and I won't on the Duke game, but I am just simply going to vent for one quick second about John Shire. Like, you cannot, as a basketball coach, allow your team to struggle that much at the end of a game to inbound a ball, play defense, rebound, don't foul, whatever the case may be. I mean, the kid misses the 1-and-1. Okay. Cooper Flag misses the turnaround. Pretty good defense. I think Roberts was up in his face on that hand up. He short arms it. Okay. That happens in basketball. But you got to have a plan to inbound a ball when you're up at the end of a game. There was no plan. It was just absolutely ridiculous what they tried to do at the end of the game. And of course it cost me, and that's why I'm so bitter in the brackets, but just unbelievable to me how they finished that game. So that's all I'll say. That one's going to sting for a long, long time. Well, I really think that it would have been a great final too, just to have those two teams playing each other, but we'll never know. So anyway, that was my hot takes. Bierman, what do you got?
Yeah, that was a tough one. It was 38 minutes of the game. I was like, oh yeah, Duke's gonna win. Good. I want Duke to win. And
I was only curious, were they going to hit the over, or was the spread was in question a little bit?
Yeah, but spread. I was curious about the spread too. Yeah, but not Duke winning.
Yeah,
but
yeah, shocking.
All right, so my first hot take, guys, it is off the beaten path. It veers away from our traditional sports, but it's going to prompt, I think, a question that Bill kind of alluded to a little bit earlier. So my alma mater, Miami University, located in beautiful Oxford, Ohio. They just won a national championship, guys. Not football, not
Fancy.
basketball, not hockey. No, they won their first national championship in dodgeball. Yes, it is a club sport, but they did, in fact, win the national championship. And I'm not going to lie, part of me thinks it's pretty freaking cool. Now, you may remember I talked on this pod a few weeks ago about some past gut punches we Miami sports fans have had over the years, most recently the massive collapse in the MAC championship game against Akron. Also shared the 2009 Frozen Four debacle where they gave up a 2-goal lead with less than a minute left in the championship. I've seen the Red Hawks get close only to crumble many times. So I am taking this one. I'm running with it. Here's what makes it even better. So 2 years ago, this dodgeball team in Miami, they won one game. They were showing up to tournaments with 8 players just trying to fill a squad. They are now national champions. They beat Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, in the title game. After trailing 2-0, they tied it in the final minute, then in overtime. I'm not making this up, guys. They were down 4.
Not real.
They were down 4-1. Team captain Ty Keller made an insane catch with one ball in his hand and another flying at him just to keep the game alive. That catch sparked the rally. Miami pulled off the win in dramatic movie script fashion. I really did expect Vince Vaughn would be running onto the court at this point, as Jason Bateman called the action for the Ocho. Along the way, they knocked off some big names, including defending back-to-back champions Michigan State in the semis, and then that Cincinnati comeback against a team they'd already beaten, that Cincinnati had beaten them earlier in the season. So a pretty impressive run. I get it that it's easy to roll your eyes at a club sport, especially one that makes us think about middle school PE. But I do believe if this exact storyline happened in basketball, we'd be calling it an all-time Cinderella. One win 3 years ago, national champs 2025. You just don't see that every day. So, yeah, it's a club team, but it's also a cool sports story. Does it count the same as football or basketball? No. But does it count for me? Damn right it counts. Congrats to the Red Hawks. Next up is a pay-per-view match against the Average Joes. All right, here's my serious question, though. Does it count as a national champion? Can I actually say Miami has now won a national title in sports?
Yes. Phil,
unequivocally, no.
Thank you, Pat. Pat, I
unequivocally, no. Unequivocally,
Phil, you
no.
sit there in your high and mighty chair, like you talk about soccer. If we're going to talk about soccer, we definitely should be able to talk about.
At what sport? At what sport do we stop saying we can't do that? Is
you
fencing
mean the biggest sport in the world?
Speed walking.
The biggest.
No,
most
I'm not
sport
saying soccer. I'll give you soccer, but at what sport do we stop saying no? That doesn't count.
Club. I don't think it's sport related.
Guys,
I think it has to be a varsity.
So we have breakdancing and speed walking in the Olympics. I mean, there's no, you don't draw a line. It's probably, exactly. You could probably have a staring contest. You could probably have a staring contest and call it a sport.
What's ironic about this is that I actually played club soccer at UW and loved it, and it was awesome. I mean, so I'm totally supportive of club sports, but I don't know. Can you? I don't know. Does it maybe if you just say club national champion, okay, like D3 champ, D2 champ, D1 champ.
Right? I'm getting my dodgeball Miami national champ T-shirts.
You gotta get,
hell yeah.
You should get some Sandman Sports merch out there. Get some Sandman Sports club.
We should sponsor
dodgeball.
that. Sandman Sports should sponsor their dodgeball team. Oh my god, I'm gonna work on that.
Now we're talking.
And we should change our pod to just talking about dodgeball. we should narrow our focus. We should narrow our focus.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I like how you think. All right. So last one here. I've been sitting on this one for a few weeks, but Sunday's NCAA women's title game finally gave me the nudge to talk about this again. Talked about women's sports before. I want to talk about it again today. So yes, viewership was down from last year's, Caitlin Clark takes over the world moment. But for being honest, guys, they had 8.5 million viewers on Sunday. That is still a huge number. It was the third most watched women's title game ever, nearly doubled the number from the last time UConn and South Carolina met in the final a few years ago. Was it as buzzy as 2024? Of course not. But that's because Caitlin Clark was once in a generation type of ratings juggernaut. This year's game, also, it wasn't super competitive. The Final Four matchups just weren't close. Final scores were way off the rails, yet it still put up really solid numbers. So, women's sports, guys, they are rolling and they are not slowing down. Let me give you two other quick points I've been meaning to bring back up. The WNBA is expanding. A month or two ago, they announced Cleveland just landed a team. They're bringing back the Cleveland Rockers name, not for cheap. The expansion fee was $250 million. That's a record for WNBA. They beat out cities like Kansas City, which literally had Pat Mahomes stumping for them. That's team number 16 in the league. The league's already talking about growing to 18. There's 13 other cities trying to get in with applications. This is not a league crossing its fingers and hoping for growth. It's a league trying to scale and keep up with demand. So really excited about that. Second point I want to make here is actually around soccer. Angel City FC, the NWSL team backed by Natalie Portman, Serena Williams, Billie Jean King, and others.
Ooh,
that team was
Natalie
just valued
Portman.
at $250 million. After Bob Iger and Willow Bay bought in. That makes them the most valuable women's sports franchise in the world. And their president says the goal is to be worth $1 billion within 5 years. And honestly, I would not bet against it. The games,
Wow.
I don't say soccer game, especially women's. I know we joke a lot with you, Bill, about it. I actually really like women's soccer. The games are good. The stars are likable. The merch is selling. Crowds show up. The product's working there. So I'm all in. Honestly, if I had millions to throw around, I'm not sure I wouldn't be investing a lot of it in women's sports right now. I think the future is definitely bright. But do you have a question for you, Bill? When are we doing our next women's sports pool, brother? I think it's time, man.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, Bierman, because I actually had a woman email me about the March Madness and the fact that we don't have any women's bracket out this year. And it just left me with this empty feeling. Like especially as a coach of girls soccer, I just feel like that's a miss on my part. I guess I apologize to everybody out there that was looking for it.
No apologies needed, but I think that's an opportunity for us, man. Seriously, I think there's interest there.
Maybe we start an NWSL pool that you guys can get in with me, right?
Yeah, sure.
Women's soccer, you can get in there.
The Cleveland Housewives versus the Kansas City stay-at-home moms. Oh,
wow!
I kid. I only tell jokes.
Wow.
Okay.
Pat's fan.
Pat just alienated.
I know. I gotta. It was just there. I had to do it. I'm a terrible person.
You are in deep shit.
Yeah.
You are in deep shit.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Let's get off that while we can. And let's move on to our Stone Cold Lock segment this week. It's all about the Masters, like we did with golf before the last few weeks where we focused on basketball. And even last week we talked about baseball and our predictions there. This week we're back to golf. We're going to each give 3 picks that we think will finish in the top 10. 2 of our picks can be favorites, but one has to be a long shot or a dark horse with winning odds of 10,000 or higher. Also, at one point, I know, guys, we were toying with only allowing each of us to pick the same player once all season. We're going to throw that rule out. Just our 3, whoever we think that's that week, within the rules that I just shared. Let's do it. So feel free to pick any players you want. Pat currently leads with 2 points. Eric and Bill both have 1. All right, Pat, what do you got?
All right, you want all 3 or one at a time?
Yeah, all 3.
All 3. All right. Yeah, give me Rory. I think it's Rory's year. That's 6.5 to 1. We said it at the Players, and I feel like if he doesn't win, he's going to be top 10. So the only thing I worry about is his ability to put up big numbers if his driver isn't cooperating. So if his driver's not on, those double bogeys come into play, that can definitely sidetrack him. But if his driver's on, he should be good. This would be a bet I would place after day 1 if he looks decent. See how he looks in the first round, and then jump on it. But I think if the rain keeps up and the greens are soft, I mean he can just take dead aim at the pin and run away with it. So Rory's my number one pick. Ludwig Aberg is 18-1, and finished second in his debut last year. He has all the skills. Most importantly, his long irons. He can find the green from deep, and I think he has the demeanor to handle the big moments and the pressure. So Ludwig Aberg is number 2. And then my long shot, which really isn't a long shot, but Russell Henley, odds are too low for world number 7, 40-1. So he won recently this year and comes in rested and in good form. So give me Russell Henley to round out my 3 picks. Book it. Is Russell Henley 40? What would we say the odds for the long shot have to be?
Yeah, he doesn't really meet that criteria. It's got to be.
I would have picked Russell.
It's got to be 50.
I love that pick.
Yeah.
But
all right,
it's 100.
You guys go.
100.
I'll pick. It's 100-1.
100-1. It was hard. I thought that was really tough to find.
All right, I'll give you my 100-1. Cancel Russell Henley then. All right, you guys go and come back to me.
Yeah, you do some research. I love Henley. I love that pick. I think he's a little bit, for some reason, he's kind of out of the public's eye a little bit. But you got a Georgia boy. He's been great form. He's just an absolute grinder of a player. I think you kind of nailed it, Pat. You just can't be absolutely losing your driver everywhere. And Henley drives the ball pretty well, and his shots on approach, which is this stat that everybody's talking about now. I love this in sports, how you have certain things that just become like part of the lexicon. It's like, everyone talks about shots gained on approach now. That's like the biggest thing, right? So I'm going to start with my long shot, because that's where I went with to find somebody. I mean, it's hard. The Masters is a favorites golf course.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so finding somebody
you don't want to be buying the field in the Calcutta, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and there's not a
Masters.
ton of people. I saw, by the way, the Calcutta is going nuts already. It's going to be interesting to see where that thing goes. It's going to be a
big one. Yeah.
But there was somebody had, I think it was close to $1,000 on the field, and there's like old timers.
No, I mean, you get Fred Couples,
amateurs.
I think you're buying Freddie.
Yeah, Bernard Longer, Freddie Couples, a few amateurs. I mean, there weren't a ton of guys in that bucket. I was really surprised.
So,
guys, I'll just real quick.
I'm
just going to give you my long shot. Mav McNeely at 150-1, 150-1. Mav McNeely. He's a good player.
Wow.
I think he can.
Nice. Okay.
I'm surprised. I
didn't even think he was plus 10,000 or whatever our thing was. Yeah. Anyway, good for you, Pat. I love that pick as well. He's been playing well. So I'm going with Laurie Cantor is my long shot. He is, what was he at? Plus 35,000. Have you heard of Laurie Cantor? Otherwise, Lawrence Cantor? No, nobody has, right? Nobody's heard of this guy. But the guy is, he's like a solid official world golf ranking. He's somewhere in the top 60, I want to say. No one's heard of this guy, but he's a good golfer. And the guy just nails shots gained on approach. So I'm going with Laurie Cantor as my, and he's not a woman. This is a man named Laurie. So my top 2 picks are just going to, we're all going to be kind of in the same thing. I love Rory, and I want Rory to win. I did not put Rory in my top 2. And it's only because Rory has just not been able to get over the hump at the Masters. And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he wins and he finishes the career Grand Slam. It would be so awesome. What a cool story. But I'm going with Scheffler because I just feel like Scheffler, horse for the course. I mean, how do you not put this guy in there? Even though he hasn't won a golf tournament yet this year, Scheffler, to me, you have to have him up there in the top 2. Now, and we didn't say that you couldn't pick like the fave. I mean, it's the chalk of chalk, but Scheffler's my number 1. And then I'm going with Bryson. I just think Bryson's length, his game, the guy's a lunatic. I mean, the scientist, right? Like, he's just an absolute loon. Again, can we stop? I'm just going to rant for 1 second with Bryson and the rest of players. If you have a 6-iron that is the angle of a 4-iron, it's not a 6-iron. Why do we call it a 6? I don't get this. The guy hits his 6-iron like 240 yards. It's absolutely ridiculous. But Bryson's my pick. He was close there last year after his infamous comments. You guys probably heard he called Augusta National a par 67. then he went out and missed the cut. And I think he learned from those mistakes. He learned from those comments. His comments this year about those comments were very fascinating. He basically said, I'm still right, but I regret saying it, in typical Bryson form. So I'm going with Bryson. I think he's going to be there and has a great chance to win the golf tournament this week. I actually think quite a few live players might be up there this week. I love a few of those guys. So, man, I love this golf tournament. I could talk about this golf tournament all day.
Yep.
So,
well, we will later.
Yep. Yep. We're going to keep talking about it. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I don't think this is going to surprise anyone. I'm going full chalk. I'm going Scheffler on this one. I mean, he hasn't won yet this season, and he was recovering from injury early in the year, but he's finished in the top 25 in all 6 of his starts this season. He's world number 1. He had a number 2, second place finish in his last start 2 weeks ago in Houston, where Minwoo Lee held them off. He won here in 2022 and 2024. Now, I don't think he's going to win it this year. There's just I don't feel like he's going to win it, but I love him to finish top 10. But the odds are minus 250 for him to finish top 10. So I'm not sure it's worth the juice. He's plus 400 to win. So I did an article too. I posted an article on our site. Not sure if you saw it yet, Bill, but I picked two that I like to back this week and 2 to avoid. I didn't pick Scheffler because I look at it a little bit as like odds as well.
Yeah, sure.
So the one I threw in there instead of Scheffler was actually Russell Henley. I love Russell Henley. I won't get into all the reasons why. You can go read the article, but I love him, especially he's 55 to 1 is what I saw. So love that. And 2 that I said to avoid in my article, Rory and Ludwig.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, there is going to be
Guys,
some good text.
for my
this weekend.
For my second pick, I really wanted to take Rory. I mean, he's been having a great season. It feels like this is his best chance to get that green jacket, but I have picked this guy so many times in the past. He's too inconsistent. I don't have faith in him. He finished second here in 2022, but he's also missed the cut twice in the last 4 years. So I just can't get burned by him again. Instead, I'm going with this pick that I absolutely love. And this was the second one that I put in my article, who to take along with Henley. Colin Morikawa. He has had a very good season. He's plus 1,800, plus 280 for top 5, plus 130 for top 10. He finished second at the Century and at the Arnold Palmer. He finished third here last year. His irons game, guys, is tailor-made for this type of course. His putting can sometimes be a little inconsistent. That always makes me nervous with these greens, but this year he's actually been good. He's been number 5 in the PGA in putt average, so that makes me feel better. He's 4th in driving accuracy and 9th in greens and regulation, all factors that I think will help him. And he's made 22 consecutive cuts. So I really like this. I think he could be the champ here. And then for my long shot, I'm going to go with Daniel Berger, who's plus 11,000 to win. I've always liked this guy. He was injured for 18 months, just returned to the tour in January. He finished second at the Waste Management. He has some good statistical metrics around strokes gained off the tee, approaching the green, putting, all that. I feel good about him, but there's a reason his odds are so high. His best finish here was at the Masters was tied for 10th, and that was way back in 2016. But of all the long shots, I feel like this guy could make a run.
Yeah, I love that.
Man, I cannot wait. I just am so excited about this weekend.
A quick thing, Bierman, here.
Yeah.
And we can cut this if it's not interesting, but okay. You, a few years back, I think it might have been 2021-ish or so, nailed Hideki at the Masters in the Calcutta. Great payout, awesome hit. Who's that guy this year?
Yeah.
Who's the guy who...
So it'll be interesting to me what Henley goes for in the Calcutta.
I was gonna say
Hideki went for like 800. I think Henley's gonna go for more. I don't know.
I'll look where he's at right now.
I would love Henley. If you could get Henley for less than 1,200.
He's 220 right now.
Oh God! If you could get him for less than 1,200, I'd take him.
Well, I mean, and he will be. I think he'll be at least 1,000.
How about Corey Connors? Corey
Corey
Connors.
Connors is another
Corey
guy.
Connors is another guy I really like. He could fall into that category, Pat.
We could
Yeah.
go, you guys, we could go 20 deep with guys that we
Yeah.
think well, maybe 20s might be a little high. 15? We could go 15
I think we
players
could
that
go
I think
20.
have a legit chance.
I think we could
Yeah,
go
it
all the way
feels
to
like a little more
Wyndham
parity
Clark at
even
100 to
with-
1. You know?
Gosh, I mean, man, I
mean,
love
the
this
nice
tournament.
thing, Bill, the nice thing about the Calcutta too is you don't necessarily need to win it. You need to finish top 6, but top 3, you're getting a really nice payday.
Or just have one good day. Have one good
run.
run.
Yeah, right. And get that low round.
Get the low round.
But that's where I think, like, for me, Bierman, I love your Morikawa pick for the Calcutta, because I think I would put more money on Morikawa than I would on Rory, even though I want Rory to win more.
But he was Morikawa now. I think he was already. I looked yesterday, but I think he was like 3,000 already.
Oh yeah, I mean the big guys are all going up over 3,000 already.
I wish I had the math brain to sit during that Calcutta and know their odds and be like, what are my odds in the Calcutta based on what are the actual odds? And like, can I do that quick enough?
I've actually done that in the past, and it's funny. It does kind of come out pretty close to what. Now, you got to take into consideration when you're betting, like, to win, you have to win. Versus here, you can win a low round or you can win a top six. You know, so so you got to take that into consideration. But it's been amazing to me. There's obviously been some values, and I think Hideki was a huge value, obviously. But like, it's usually the market usually corrects itself. I feel like in these Calcuttas,
it's just gonna be fascinating this year, you guys. I mean, and Rory, we all love Rory, but he's just got off to such tough starts. Like, he always gets off to this slow start. And that's like, Pat nailed it so perfectly earlier, I thought, when you said, like, maybe just hold off your Rory money until after round 1. Sure, if he has a good round, your odds are going to come way down. But I still would feel better betting Rory Thursday night than I would feel betting Rory Thursday morning.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Man, I just love this golf tournament. So fun.
Right.
All right. Well, let's keep talking about it. We're going to move on to our top 5. And today we're going to cover our top 5 favorite things about the Masters. This is intentionally vague, guys. You can take this in basically any direction you want. It can be past memories or moments, favorite champions. It can be the music. It can be the course itself, specific iconic shots, anything you want. But we're ranking our 5 favorite things about the Masters. So, Pat, start us off.
Guys, I'm really excited about the Masters this year. I love how it's nice and calm and quiet. So one of my number 5.
Well played.
Number 5 is Jim Nantz. You know, speaking of Jim, why wasn't he calling the NCAA games this year?
I think he's done.
I think he's done. But he and Dottie Pepper, you know, I mean, I could sit on the couch and it's almost like the voice could be saying anything. I really don't care. It almost puts me in a Zen-like meditative golf state. So it's that intro music. It's Jim Nantz. It's the quiet, calming, the coverage of the Masters. I always and now with the coverage you got, you know, they're giving you basically every shot from everybody 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. You know, I mean, it's nonstop coverage now. And I miss David Faraday. I wish David Faraday was still around, but otherwise,
he was great.
Give me Jim Nantz and the coverage of the Masters. And then number 4 for me is it always reminds me of my dad. I remember watching Phil Mick and how excited we were to watch Lefty come down the stretch. And perhaps the reason why I will always love Phil, even if he decides to run like a dog fighting ring or punch baby seals in the face, to me, he can do no wrong. He can never do wrong. And watching the Masters, especially Phil, will always make me think of my dad. And so for me, the history, it's the history, not only personally, but the history of the Masters. There's so much history, the heightened importance of the sacred course and some of the great past champions, and just the where was I when so-and-so won, you know? So for me,
well said.
It's the history and the commentators for 5 and 4. What about you, Bill?
Man, I love that. You just
Let's move over to Bill Sanders, who's going to take it over.
Bill's on 16.
Bill's on 16. What do
Bill's
you got,
on
Bill?
16. And yeah, guys, I've got number 5. It's looking like the history is going to be set again here because I love the history. I love the history. I think Pat nailed it. No other major is played at the same venue every year, right? And this golf course is as big of a part of the story as the players are a part of the story. And I just think there's just so much to love about the fact that every single player grows up wanting to be a professional golfer. This is the place that they want to play. You know, probably St. Andrews might be up there too, but everybody I know that's played St. Andrews is like, yeah, it's like, all right, but it's cool. You know, the history is cool. The Masters and Augusta National, just so cool. So number 5 is the history for me as well. I also love number 4 is that I love that the Masters does not mess around. There's no cameras, no phones, nobody yelling mashed potatoes when they hit a drive, right? There's just no nonsense. It's just awesome golf. That's the story. Everything about it is golf, right? It's not drunk people yelling shit and that's my 5 and 4. Love the history, and I just love the Masters. Everything about that. Look, they had some things too that I would throw in there that weren't great.
Yeah.
You know, minorities, women, things like that. But over the course of the years, I think the Masters committee has done a really nice job. They think of everything when they put this tournament together. So that's my 5.
It's a 3-pat with the history. I kind of titled it the tradition, but same thing. And it's fairly open ended and it covers a lot. But I'm going with it because to me, that's what I think about when I think of the Masters. There's always something about the Masters that just feels different. It's old school. It's untouchable. The logo is iconic. It's the only major, as you said, Bill, played on the same course every year. The green jacket, one of the coolest, most recognizable symbols in all sports. It's impossible to get on there to play unless your last name is Hogan, Palmer, Nicholas, or you are somebody. You can buy a beer for $6 and a pimento cheese sandwich for $1.50. The whole place feels like it's a time capsule, and that is 100% intentional. Few commercial breaks, minimal hype. It's just golf. I mean, I love that Augusta still calls the shots too, and the networks fall in lines. It's a throwback. It works. They want to pretend it's 1950 still. You know what? Honestly, some days I do too. So for that, I love just the tradition and the history. And then for number 4 for me, it's just for us Midwesterners and Northerners, the Masters is the unofficial start of spring. It tells us the weather is breaking. Hey, guess what? You might be able to get on the course here pretty soon. You watch the beauty, the azaleas, everything's in full bloom, and you're just thinking, oh my gosh, like 48 degrees here feels playable. And, the golf gods are just saying, hang in there. Your tee time is coming. The pools are going to be opening up before you know it. So, yeah, for me, it's just a reminder that things are turning. The weather's going to get nicer here.
Nice. My number 3, I had the course. Kind of, Bill, you talked about it. I love the par 5s, 2, 8, 13, and 15. Knowing that the guys you are betting on can immediately gain 1 or 2 shots is a big part of why I love these holes. But 12, par 3, amen corner, all the holes. I mean, I could play it in my mind the way I know the course inside out. Inside and out. And you mentioned it. You guys both mentioned it that every year it's the same track and the only major to play on the same course. So that's, I mean, you could go as far as saying that it's a tradition unlike any other. You could.
Yes, you could.
Yeah, you probably could. But that number 2 for me is the field. All of the big names are here. We get to watch the live guys come back and mix it up just like the old days. I hope we get a stacked leaderboard with names I know and fun pairings, perhaps a Rory and Bryson final pairing. I also like that the past champions get exemption. It's fun to see the old turds try to, you see them shooting like at 86.
I love seeing Freddie on there.
Freddie Couples. Yeah. So for me, it's the field as number 2.
Yeah.
We're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Bill's at 16. I just love the traditions. I think you guys, we've all talked about it, right? But I just think too, it's like, it's not even that we're older guys now. It's like even when in my 20s, like I just thought it was so cool. And I don't know, maybe it's like Eric just said it so perfectly. It's a time capsule, and I think it's like nostalgic, and it's just, but they work hard to continue all of these traditions. I mean, obviously, just rattling some of them off. You have the green jacket, right? You have the caddy bibs. They call them patrons, not fans. The
Mm-hmm.
par three tournament's a little bit newer, but that's a cool tradition. I love watching that with the
Oh, that's a good
players
one.
and
Yeah.
their kids and their families, their wives, whatever. It's just cool seeing them skip the ball across the water onto the par threes. Magnolia Lane, the honorary starters. Eric mentioned the concessions. The lottery. You have to participate in this lottery, which I don't know if you guys do. I do every year.
Yeah,
I've
I've
done it.
still
never.
yet to.
Never
Yep.
got it. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Tradition like any other, unlike any other. You got the azaleas Eric mentioned in
Stop
full bloom.
stealing my line, Bill. Bill, you just stole my
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. Sorry to steal Pat's line.
Yeah.
The champions dinner, and then also
Mhm.
too, just the last champion, putting the green jacket on the winner, right? I mean, like Butler Cabin, like all of the things.
All the
And why do I think
amateurs staying in the house. Yep.
Yep, and yeah, right. And then low am is a huge deal if you get that low am prize. And so the traditions for me was my number three. And then number two, I Pat just again nailed this one, but it's the course. It's Augusta National Golf Club. It's immaculate. Everybody that I know that's been there for practice rounds or live rounds, they just say there's not a blade of grass that's out of place. I mean, it's just the beauty is just off the charts, and it's a bucket list for me for sure as a sports fan to get down there at some point. Hopefully, I win that lottery. But I also love the routing of the course, and Pat mentioned the par fives, Amen's Corner or Amen Corner, etc. Just all the iconic holes. I do love from a betting perspective that there's so many chances to score at this course, and yet you can also be looking like if my guy just eagles 13 here, I'm back in this thing, and then they throw a 7 up, right? And so there's just danger lurking at every corner as well. But Augusta National is my number two.
Yeah. I can be very fast on my number 3 and 2 because they're echoing to the Pat said earlier on. Jim Nantz is my number 3. Love that guy. He started calling the Masters back in 1989. This will be his 37th year calling it. One of the best all-time voices. And Pat, you said it perfectly. It doesn't matter where I'm at. If I can't be in Augusta or, on the course, next best place is to be anywhere where I can hear that guy's voice telling me what's going on. So he's my number 3. Love it. And then my number 2 is Phil getting his first major back in 2004. That was on Easter Sunday. He got that major finally off his back, that monkey. He won it after 46 career starts in majors without a win. He did it in dramatic fashion, rolling in a 18-foot birdie there in 18. Like I said, it was Easter Sunday. I was with family. Like we were just glued to the TV. It was one of just a memory I'll never forget. And I can't remember if we've talked. I've never been a Tiger guy. Never really liked a Tiger. I respect him. Definitely will tell you. I think he's the second best golfer ever after Jack. But Phil was always my guy. So watching him finally break through was just awesome. And that's my number 2.
Nice. Do you think you could get Jim Nantz to do an audio, do the audio book for Carlin Stryker? No, for Carlin Stryker.
Oh, of Carlin Stryker. Oh, that'd be fantastic.
The audio
that
book
would be great.
read by Jim Nantz.
Jim Nantz.
I had a buddy in college who always said, if I die, I want Bob Costas to speak at my funeral. Bob Costas. Anyway, so
I love Costas.
Yeah, my number 1 for me, guys, is the gambling. The pools, the Calcuttas.
Oh, interesting.
Look, watching the Masters is great, but watching the Masters with maybe like one year Rory had an amazing Sunday. He was way out of it, and he came back and I think he got second, or third or something.
When he pulled out from the bunker
on 18.
Yeah,
I had him that year. I mean, there's nothing better. Like I like watching golf, but when you got money on the golf, like come on. It's a lot more fun. So for me, it's the pools, any kind of gambling. So for me, Thursday morning, I'm going to be looking like, all right, who do I got? Who am I rooting for? And then you just lock into these guys, and it's the gambling for me. Number one with a
Yeah,
bullet.
man, absolutely. You're just
It's too
after my
bad that
heart with
that
that one, Pat.
Calcutta is getting too high for me. I need like a poor man's Calcutta.
Yeah, well, the way to go there is just grab a few buds and like then you can split it
And
up, right?
yeah.
Make Eric's life miserable on the accounting side, but the as so many people do. Eric, I just want to make sure before I do my number one that if yours is similar, you just stop me because I don't want
It
to
won't
take all
be.
the good
It
ones.
won't
Okay.
be.
All right. All right. So for me, my number one is all the legendary moments and the calls that go with it. You guys have talked about Nantz and just how unbelievable he is. I think he actually announced his retirement. Did you guys hear this as well from the broadcast? 2035, which I just thought was the best. Like he's like, I'm doing this. I'm gonna hang it up, guys. I'm gonna hang it up in 2035. And so I was just like, that's so great.
It's
Nance
good
is
to
just
know.
a goat. He's the goat. Very curious to know who will take his place. I mean, big shoes to fill for sure. But I'm just going to rattle through these real quick, if you guys just don't mind, because there's just so many good ones, and I just want to just highlight. This is going to be like 1A through E, I think. So I apologize, but I absolutely loved one of the most iconic images in recent memory was Hideki's caddy. You remember when he won the golf tournament and then on the 18th hole bows to the golf course? Such a cool moment. DJ's victory speech in 2020. It was during the COVID year, but he was so choked up, he literally could not get a word out. And I just thought you can see what this means to these guys, which as fans, that's what I think we want to see. We want to be attached to these guys like DJ, who went through all the problems and issues and then came back and wins the green jacket. The father and son moments through the years. Jack and Jackie in '86. I didn't watch, but my friend Andy Dodell's dad always taped every single golf tournament, and so you could watch them on VCRs back in 1986, which was crazy because Pat mentioned it, but they didn't even show all the shots. Like back then, they didn't even show all the shots. So anyway, that moment with Jack and Jackie walking off there arm in arm, pretty cool. Tiger and his dad Earl hugging after Tiger's win, then Tiger and Charlie when he won in 2019, so full circle. The Tiger Slam in 2001, just unbelievable performance. Nicholas on 16 with the Vern Lundquist call when he gives him that was on 17 when he says the maybe yes sir, right?
Yeah.
Like that we've all heard a million times. And the funny story with that one was Ben Wright, his colleague on CBS, actually called his Jack Nicklaus's eagle on 15 and used that exact line. And so then Vern, I think in his subconscious, at least the way he describes it, comes out with the same thing. Well, Vern gets all the credit for that call through the years. Meanwhile, Ben Wright's like, I said it 15 minutes before that on 15. And it's just one of those kind of interesting Masters lore stories. And then the last one that I'll say is that, do you guys remember the one on 16 when Tiger hits the chip and it goes all the way down and rolls? I think the ball was in motion for like 15 or 16 seconds before it hangs on the lip and you see the Nike logo, and then it just drops into the cup, and then the
Yeah.
most awkward high five in the history of sports between
That's
Tiger and
right.
Stevie Williams. But that's the one where Vern gives the call, in your life have you
Yeah.
ever seen anything like it? I mean, just so cool. And so all those moments, I think, are also what just kind of bring us back every year to those like just incredible moments in this golf tournament. So that was my number one.
God, that's
Thank
a
you for
great
listening.
one, Bill. Wow, I got chills just listening. So many good memories and moments, and that's what it's all about, honestly. So, yeah, both your guys, wow, number ones, those were phenomenal. So my number one goes kind of, you could say, ties in, I guess, to the tradition and history, but it's very specific to me. It's the ceremonial first tees. I absolutely love this. Every year, as we all know, the Masters begins with a tradition that I just think is one of the coolest in sports. It's the ceremonial tee shots by legendary champions. I have to call out my favorite ones were when it was Nicholas, Player, and Palmer. Obviously, Arnie passed away a few years ago. So this year it will be Nicholas, Player, and Tom Watson, who I think is just a great addition to that. I just love seeing these guys, those champions from all those years ago, still on that golf course, striping their first shots down the fairway. It just gives me chills every time. I'm a very nostalgic, very tradition laden person. I love traditions. And to me, there's nothing better than seeing those guys every year. It pulls me back decades. It makes me remember why I love this tournament so much. So that's my number one. All right, guys, man, that was fun. I am so stoked for this tournament. So cannot wait for tea time tomorrow morning. All right, well, before we close up the show, Bill, you want to share anything with our listeners?
With Pat's number one, right? With Pat's number one, having a few bucks on the line, watching the Masters, just can't beat it throughout the sports calendar. I mean, if you're looking to get in and you've already done pools before, mypools.entersandmansports.com/pools. If you haven't, then just email us, info@entersandmansports.com, and we'll hook you up with all the details that you need. We got a ton of stuff. I don't think anybody will be listening before the Calcutta is done.
Probably not.
I'm sure, we'll see if this comes out before the tournament starts tomorrow morning. So
it probably won't, but yeah, I mean, next we have golf pools every week. So even if we can't do it for the Masters, can do it next week.
Look for guillotine.
There'll be other majors as well. There'll be other majors where we have all these similar pools, and guillotine golf is so freaking cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that one's rolling out all the time. 11 players, first 11 in, pool closes. Super fun, easy picks.
Just can't be the worst. That's all. It's an easy concept. Just don't be the worst that week. So
that's right.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right. Well, Sandman Nation, you all are the absolute best. We're grateful to have you join us every week. We hope you enjoyed another great show. I know we three did, but sadly, it is time to exit Sandman Sports. Before we do, though, quickly, a few reminders where to find us. Follow us, like us, subscribe to us, spread the word, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all at Enter Sandman Sports, and our website, as I mentioned in the opening, entersandmansports.com. Fresh new content every day, both print and video side. So check us out there. Have a wonderful weekend, guys. Have a wonderful weekend, Sandman Nation. Enjoy the Masters. Peace out. Take care.
Goodbye, friends.